Do you know the story behind Mercedes-Benz, the most valuable luxury automobile brand in the world today? The name that screams success, royalty, and innovation actually began in the shadows of poverty, loss, and betrayal. This is the incredible journey of Karl Benz, a boy who once lived in a small hut in Germany, a boy who went on to invent something that would redefine transportation for all of humanity. The modern petrol-powered car, born on November 25, 1844, in the quiet town of Mühlberg, Germany, Karl Benz came into a family that, at first, seemed financially stable. His father worked as a locomotive driver, a respectable job during those times. But fate had other plans. When Karl was just 2 years old, his father passed away unexpectedly. That one tragedy pushed the entire family into financial hardship. Karl's mother, now a widow, was forced to take up small jobs working in people's homes, washing clothes, doing anything she could, all to ensure that her son could study and grow up to become something big. And Karl understood her pain. He honored her sacrifices. Instead of complaining, he buried himself in books. From a very early age, Karl showed a natural talent in mechanics and chemistry. He wasn't just a dreamer, he was a builder. At just 15 years old, he passed the entrance exam for mechanical engineering, an achievement that very few could imagine at that age. He went on to graduate from the Polytechnic School in Karlsruhe and worked in multiple places, picking up critical skills in design, innovation, and machinery. A dream is born. Karl Benz, born in 1844, lost his father at just 2 years old. Raised by a hard-working mother in a poor home in Germany, Karl discovered an early passion for mechanics. By 15, he had already qualified in mechanical engineering and was well on his way to rewriting history. A dream betrayed after working at 7 different companies. Karl realized one thing: he didn't just want to be an employee, he wanted to create something revolutionary. In 1871, at the age of 27, Karl Benz made a bold decision. He quit his stable job and started a metalworking business with a partner named August Ritter. But Karl wasn't just thinking about iron and metal. In the background, he was working obsessively on his secret project, a motorized vehicle powered by fuel. While Karl got more and more immersed in his invention, he slowly handed over the day-to-day control of the business to his partner Ritter, and that turned out to be a huge mistake. Ritter took advantage of Karl's absence and almost sank the company through bad decisions and mismanagement. Karl's dream was on the edge of collapse, but then came an angel in disguise, the woman who drove the dream, Bertha Benz. At Karl's lowest point, Bertha Ringer stepped into his life. She was not just anyone. Bertha came from a wealthy family and had a sharp mind. She believed in Karl's vision when no one else did. Bertha used her dowry money, the funds her parents had saved for her marriage, to buy out August Ritter's share in the company. Now, Karl and Bertha were not just life partners, they were business partners, owners of a company that would change the world. With renewed energy, Karl patented his first internal combustion engine in 1879. He also patented several other innovations like spark plugs, gear systems, clutches, and carburetors. But even with all this innovation, one problem remained. Sales were dead. People didn't trust the idea of a gas-powered carriage. It was too new, too risky, too weird. Investors pulled out. Karl had to sell most of his shares. At one point, he owned just 5% of the company he founded. And with that, his reputation faded. He quietly exited his own company. But destiny wasn't done with Karl yet. Reinvention on 3 wheels. After leaving the company, Karl teamed up with 2 bicycle shop owners, Max Rose and Friedrich Wilhelm Esslinger. The 3 of them started a new company, Benz and C. With this fresh start, Karl finally had the time and freedom to fully focus on his invention, a 3-wheeled gasoline-powered automobile. In 1885, Karl completed the world's first gasoline-powered car, a 3-wheeled motorwagon that could run at a speed of 16 kilometers per hour. He patented the design and introduced it as the Benz patent Motorwagenbot. During its first public demo, the car crashed into a wall. The audience laughed. Karl was humiliated. The press labeled it a dangerous failure. Sales, almost zero. Once again, Karl was on the verge of giving up. The first road trip in history. But Bertha, Karl's wife, partner, and biggest supporter, believed otherwise. But one morning in 1888, without telling Karl, Bertha Benz made a bold move. She took the motor wagon, placed her 2 sons in it, and drove off toward her mother's house, a 107 kilometers journey, without permission, without backup, and without fuel stations. Yes, that was the world's first long-distance automobile road trip. As she drove through villages, people were terrified. They had never seen a machine move without horses. They thought it was some kind of ghost. The car broke down several times along the way. Bertha fixed it herself, using hairpins and tools. At one point, the fuel ran out, so she stopped at a pharmacy and bought Ligroin, a petroleum solvent. That pharmacy in Wislik is still known as the world's first gas station. During the trip, Bertha noticed several flaws, including weak brakes, and replaced them with leather-padded brakes, which became the basis for modern braking systems. After 12 hours, she completed the journey. The news spread like wildfire. Suddenly, people believed. They saw the car not as a joke, but as the future. A nation watches. And by after Bertha Benz's bold 107-kilometer road trip, everything changed. People were fascinated. The impossible had just been proven possible. Suddenly, what was once a strange, noisy contraption became a vision of the future. Orders for the motor wagon began pouring in. Carl continued to improve the vehicle. By 1888, he introduced Model 2, and soon after that, Model 3, the car Bertha had driven on her historic trip. Despite being hesitant to promote his invention publicly, Carl's hand was now forced. His wife had not only validated his work, she had proven that the car could handle real roads, real conditions, and real people. By 1893, Benz introduced the Benz Victoria, a new model with 4 wheels and greater stability. It quickly became one of the most luxurious cars of the time. Sales exploded. In 1899, Benz and C sold over 572 cars worldwide, a massive number for an era still dominated by horse-drawn carriages. The automobile was no longer a novelty, it was the future of transportation. But Karl Benz wasn't the only visionary chasing this dream. The rival Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach, while Karl Benz was making headlines with the patent motorwagen. Another genius in Germany was quietly working on his own masterpiece. Gottlieb Daimler, along with his close friend and engineer Wilhelm Maybach, was developing engines that could power not just cars but boats, trolleys, and even airships. Their company, Daimler Motorengesellschaft DMG, was growing rapidly. Maybach, the chief engineer, created a compact high-speed internal combustion engine that could be adapted to almost anything. In 1889, their motorized carriage stunned audiences in Paris. By the early 1900s, Daimler cars were setting speed records and winning races. And then came the name that would change everything. Mercedes. Mercedes was the name of the daughter of Emil Jelinek, a wealthy businessman and automobile enthusiast who raced Daimler cars. He had one condition when buying cars from DMG: they must name the car after his daughter, Mercedes. In 1901, DMG released the Mercedes 35 horsepower, a sleek, powerful machine far ahead of its time. It became a global sensation. For the first time, the world saw cars not just as transportation, but as symbols of power, prestige, and luxury. The war that shattered everything. By the 1910s, both Benz and C and Daimler Motorengesellschaft were dominant players in Europe's rapidly growing automobile market. But in 1914, the world changed forever. World War I broke out. Suddenly, these companies were no longer just building luxury cars. They were ordered to build vehicles for the military, trucks, engines, and wartime machines. Civilian production came to a halt. By the time the war ended in 1918, both companies were financially devastated. Germany's economy collapsed. Inflation soared, factories were damaged, and workers were gone. To make matters worse, the post-war Treaty of Versailles imposed restrictions on Germany's industry, making it nearly impossible to restart large-scale production. A merger born from survival. By the early 1920s, Benz and C and DMG were both struggling. Sales had dropped, raw materials were scarce, and the German economy was in deep depression. In this chaos, both companies realized a difficult truth: if they didn't join forces, they might not survive. In 1926, after years of competition and rivalry, the two giants finally agreed to merge. Karl Benz's Benz and C and Gottlieb Daimler's Daimler Motorengesellschaft DMG joined together to create a new company, Mercedes-Benz, a name that combined Benz's engineering legacy with Mercedes' luxury brand identity. Their new logo, the now iconic three-pointed star, symbolized domination over land, sea, and air. With this merger, Mercedes-Benz quickly regained global attention. Their vehicles became faster, sleeker, and more technologically advanced. Sales improved, morale returned, but peace wouldn't last. The darkest chapter, World War IIIN, 1933. Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany. By 1934, Mercedes-Benz was ordered to stop civilian car production and begin producing exclusively for the military. Tanks, trucks, engines. The company had no choice but to comply. Between 1934 to 1939, Mercedes cars dominated in motor races, something Hitler used as propaganda to showcase Germany's power. But behind the scenes, a dark reality was unfolding. As World War II escalated, Mercedes-Benz faced a severe labor shortage. Most men were drafted into the military. To keep up production, the company began employing women and then forced labor. By the early 1940s, Mercedes-Benz was using over 60,000 forced laborers, many of whom were Jewish prisoners from concentration camps. When Germany lost the war in 1945, the world discovered the truth. Mercedes-Benz was heavily criticized for its wartime practices. As punishment, many of its overseas manufacturing plants were seized by Allied forces. The company was once again broken. Factories were bombed. Resources vanished. Germany was in ruins for the third time in Carl Benz's legacy. The company stood on the edge of destruction, rebuilding from the ashes. The year was 1945. Germany had just lost World War II. Its cities were bombed, infrastructure destroyed, industries paralyzed. And Mercedes-Benz, it was broken. Its factories lay in ruins, its reputation scarred by war, its workers gone, its overseas plants seized. Any other company would have disappeared, but not this one. Despite the destruction, the spirit of innovation remained alive. Mercedes-Benz decided to start from scratch, and this time, for the people, they began designing and manufacturing ambulances, police vehicles, and small civilian cars that could help rebuild German society. Resources were low, morale was lower, but slowly, step by step, the machines started moving again. The Gullwing miracle and global attention. In 1952, Mercedes-Benz launched a car that turned heads and dropped jaws. The Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing, with its futuristic design and up doors, it looked like something from outer space. But it wasn't just a beauty, it was a beast on the road, known for speed, performance, and innovation. This car single-handedly revived Mercedes-Benz's global image. People around the world started seeing the brand not as a relic of war, but as a symbol of bold German engineering and futuristic design. Safety first. Changing the industry. By the 1950s and 60s, Mercedes-Benz wasn't just designing for style or speed. They became obsessed with safety and reliability. The company introduced a range of game-changing features: 4-valve diesel engines for smoother performance, crush zones to absorb accident impact, padded dashboards, seatbelts introduced in 1961, anti-lock braking system, ABS airbags, passenger-side safety technologies. While other companies competed for flash, Mercedes built a reputation for being bulletproof, both literally and figuratively. The brand became the standard for political leaders, diplomats, billionaires, and celebrities worldwide. Owning a Mercedes wasn't just about driving, it was about status, about safety, about being part of something elite. Bought marketing to the youth. In the late 70s and early 80s, Mercedes realized that to truly become global, they had to connect with younger audiences too. Gone were the days when Mercedes was seen only as a retired CEO's car. New ad campaigns rolled out, sleeker models were launched, performance variants like AMG started gaining attention. Young professionals began aspiring to own a Mercedes, not just for its luxury, but for its performance, style, and tech-forward design. Entering India, a billion dreams. In 1994, Mercedes officially entered the Indian market. They set up a manufacturing plant in Pune, Maharashtra, and launched their first locally assembled car, the Mercedes-Benz W124, in 1995. But did you know, this wasn't the first Mercedes to come to India? Back in 1991, the Mercedes-Benz 190D, now known as the E-Class, was specially imported from Germany for none other than J.R.D. Tata, one of India's most respected business tycoons. Since then, the relationship between India and Mercedes-Benz has only grown. Today, Mercedes-Benz India offers 26 different models, operates one of the largest luxury car networks, sells 1 in every 4 luxury cars in India, has an average price point of 1 crore, serves thousands of celebrities, CEOs, athletes, and industrialists. Mercedes isn't just a car in India, it's a statement of achievement. The billion-dollar brand. Fast forward to today. Mercedes-Benz is a name known across the world. With factories on nearly every continent. The company continues to lead in luxury vehicle sales, electric vehicle innovation, EQ series, AI-assisted driving and tech sustainability. In design and production, its cars are still seen as a symbol of success. Still used by presidents, prime ministers, and superstars. Still considered the dream car for millions. But more than anything, Mercedes-Benz is proof of a vision that refused to die. Final thoughts. From zero to millions, from a hut in Germany to a global empire. From tragedy and betrayal to triumph and legacy. From forced labor and bombed factories to futuristic electric cars and AI innovation. The story of Mercedes-Benz is not just about a car. It's about grit, vision, resilience, and love. It's about a man who believed and a woman who drove his dream forward, literally. If this story inspired you, then hit that subscribe button. Because at ZTM 0 to Millions, we bring you stories that move you. Stories that prove that no matter where you come from, you can always drive your way to greatness. Subscribe, like, share. Let's grow together from 0 to millions.